Brothers, sisters, and others of all colors, welcome back to another YouTube video. This time, we're going to talk about understanding trans people on an intuitive, intellectual level, okay? For all of my big brain motherfuckers, okay? Big brain motherfuckers. But not for big brain people. This is for like anybody. Anybody can understand this. At least I think so. Well, I didn't write it down. I can say that much. But anyways, let's get into the topic, okay? First thing we need to know is identity, alright? Good old identity. What is identity? Identity is what you attach yourself to, alright? And there are varying levels of depth. Depth with which you can attach yourself to something. You might attach yourself more strongly to some things over other things, and in different ways. For example, you can be really, really, really into a football team. All right. You represent that is you wear the merch. You go to every game that they're in your hometown. You have it's just like their memorabilia is all over your wall, and that's the way you express it. Or maybe you express your identity in a way that's like, I want to learn and understand everything about this team, and I follow the management and the behind the scenes thing. I don't really know football of this thing, right? For me, all right, talking about things we do understand. I was a huge Piranha Plant man, all right. Smash Bros. Fucking ultimate, and I loved the character like a lot, and I like studied the frame data. I thought about the character a lot. I made up a lot of theory and like techniques and skills and like play styles and things like that. Ways of thinking about the character. Alright, that's where my identity was. Now, here's a little exercise. Give it a try. Think about something you consider to be your identity. You can write it in the comments or not. But anyways, pause the video for a second and just think. Alright, so hopefully you tried that. I think it'll help, sort of. I think it'll help you comprehend it. Now, the next thing we need to understand about trans people, the next thing we need to know to understand trans people is gender and sex, okay? Two different things. And colloquially, they're used interchangeably. And it's just like how you call like any old bird if you're talking with somebody, like a sparrow. It might not even be a sparrow. It might be a tit. I don't know how, like a bird expert might not know how you get a sparrow confused with a tit, but bear with me, all right? You might just call them birds, okay? It's just like a way to spice up the conversation by using a different word for the same generally thing. All right? So that's the thing, right? Sometimes we use words interchangeably that have different meanings. So what are the different meanings, right? Sex are parts and chemicals and stuff. They're physical things. And gender is like kind of like ideas, societal things, right? Like men wear dresses. Boys play with G.I. Joe. Or women wear dresses. Boys play with G.I. Joe. Girls like to blow bubbles. Boys like to fight, right? And these kinds of things sort of just are just all over. People code things with gender all the time, all right? All the time. Men are in the cars. Women are into cooking and home cleaning, and well, home ec, there we go. That's the word, not home cleaning. but things like that, right? But there's nothing in the Y chromosome that says you gotta fucking play football or whatever. There's nothing like the X chromosomes or whatever don't tell you to go play with Barbie dolls. I might have that backwards. I think that was right the first time, but you can never be too sure. And that's just like, okay, there we go. So, exercise time. Try to think about something that's gender, right? That's not a body part. That's something that you attribute to boys and girls, right? Maybe it's something like girls eat hot chip and lie or something like that. Or girls are too suspicious nowadays, or boys or men are pigs, something like that. Anything like that. All right, just give it like a brain blast, okay? And now. All right. So now that you have an idea of what gender is, yeah, there you build an identity around your gender or your sex. You're like, hey, I got to do this, to be a man. I got to do this to be a woman. I got to do this to prove myself as a man, or something along those lines, right? Maybe you have something like that going on, and people validate us as I believe that we share a similar experience for expressing ourselves as the gender that we identify with at birth. It's not my cat, but this cat. I thought this cat was after another moth. Anyways, so we strongly identify with it because other people affirm it, and like you kind of just like you believe it, and if you believe it and other people affirm it, it's in there. All right, it's in there. It's not an identity you can very easily let go. But for some people, that's never been their identity, and sometimes people live so unconsciously of that because they've lived so long choosing to identify as a man or as a woman, even though that's not really what they want. And it takes it usually takes like a catalyst. It takes like a moment in their life where they do something of the opposite gender to realize that, hey, there's something going on here, and this can manifest unconsciously. I recommend looking into the whole egg thing that's in the trans community, where it's like, oh, you're an egg if you, an egg is a trans person who hasn't come out yet. So you're an egg if you've spent all night thinking about gender, or if you obsess over something that is gender gap related, or that is related to another gender, or if anything that's not, your gender, right? So people strongly identify with their gender at birth, not just because of social reinforcement, but because of they believe it too, right? Some people just aren't like that, and some people just haven't been like that, but kind of just like went along with it, and they feel like and because of that, they sort of have this unconscious desire to, well, be a different person. And so eventually, or hopefully I'd say, they do. And that is how you understand trans people, alright? So, to recap, identity is the things you attach yourself to. Gender and sex are different things, even though we use them interchangeably in a social situation, right? Gender, like cultural things, social things, ideas that we have about people based off of what we perceive their sex to be, and sex is their body parts. People identify, again, very, very strongly with their sex and their gender. And for some people, it's just not like that. Some people don't have an attachment to another gender. And sometimes, and that's a very deep attachment. Anyways,